My entitled parents made everything about my spoiled sister. Now they've learned their lesson. Growing up, Vanessa got everything. The biggest bedroom, new clothes every season, a car for her 16th birthday. Meanwhile, I wore hand-me-downs and took the bus. She's just more delicate, Mom would say whenever I questioned the inequality. You're stronger. You don't need as much attention. The breaking point came during my senior year. I'd worked 3 part-time jobs to save for college since my parents made it clear there was no college fund for me. They'd spent it on Vanessa's private tutors and European vacations. I'd earned a full scholarship to Northwestern for engineering, my dream school. The day my acceptance letter arrived, I was ecstatic. That same afternoon, Vanessa announced she wanted to go to a mediocre out-of-state art school that cost $65,000 a year. She had no talent, no portfolio, just a whim. My parents sat us both down that evening. We're so proud of both our girls, Dad began. Then came the gut punch. They were taking out a parent loan to pay for Vanessa's school, which meant they couldn't co-sign my student housing lease or help with any expenses. But you have that scholarship, Mom said brightly. You'll be fine. Vanessa needs our support more. The scholarship covered tuition, nothing else. I'd need loans for housing, food, books, everything. I spent that night recalculating my entire future. I went to Northwestern anyway, working 30 hours a week while carrying a full course load. Vanessa dropped out after 1 semester, claiming the professors didn't understand her vision. My parents never asked for their money back. They just shrugged and said she needed time to find herself. She moved back home, rent-free, while I survived on ramen and sleep deprivation. 4 years later, I graduated with honors and landed a job at a top tech firm in Seattle. Vanessa was still living at home, working part-time at a boutique, spending her paychecks on festival tickets. My parents started calling me weekly. We're getting older, Dad would hint. We need to talk about the future. The future, it turned out, meant me. They'd remortgaged their house to fund Vanessa's lifestyle, and were now drowning in debt. Their retirement accounts were empty. They needed me to help with their bills, maybe let them move in with me eventually. Family takes care of family, Mom said. The same woman who chose Vanessa's art school over my housing. Last month, they showed up at my apartment unannounced with suitcases. They'd been evicted. It's just temporary, Dad promised, until we get back on our feet. Vanessa wasn't with them. She was staying with her new boyfriend, someone they'd never met. I stood in my doorway looking at their desperate faces. This apartment I'd furnished with my own money. In the city I'd moved to alone, representing everything I'd built without them. Where's Vanessa? I asked calmly. She has her own life, Mom said quickly. We didn't want to burden her. I nodded slowly. Then I pulled out my phone and showed them the security footage from my building. They'd been here twice before, trying different doors, asking my neighbors about my schedule. This wasn't a sudden emergency. This was planned. I know about the second mortgage, I said, and the credit cards, and the loan you took against Vanessa's non-existent future. Their faces went pale. How did you— I'm the emergency contact on all your accounts, I interrupted. You put me down years ago, remember? So you could use me as a reference for more credit. The silence stretched between us. Finally, I stepped back and started closing the door. I hope Vanessa has room for both of you. That was 3 weeks ago. Yesterday, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. When I answered, I heard my sister's voice for the first time in 2 years. We need to talk, she said, about Mom and Dad, and about what they've been telling everyone you did to them. My blood ran cold. What are you talking about? I managed to keep my voice steady. Vanessa's breath hitched on the other end. Can we meet? I can't do this over the phone. 2 hours later, I sat across from my sister in a coffee shop 3 blocks from my apartment. She looked different, thinner. Her hair was dyed black instead of the blonde she'd maintained since high school. The designer bags were gone, replaced with a worn canvas tote. They're living with me now, she said without preamble, in my boyfriend's studio apartment. Well, ex-boyfriend as of this morning. I said nothing, just waited. They showed up at Trevor's place the day after you turned them away. Told him this whole story about how you'd stolen their retirement money and kicked them out when they came to you for help. She traced the rim of her coffee cup. Trevor believed them. Why wouldn't he? They're so convincing. And you? She looked up, and I saw something I'd never seen in Vanessa's eyes before. Shame. I believed them too, at first. They said you'd always been jealous of me, that you'd become cruel after getting your fancy job, that they'd sacrificed everything to put you through school, and this is how you repaid them. The audacity of it stole my breath. They didn't put me through school. I worked myself half to death while they funded your art school adventure. I know, her voice cracked. I know that now. But you have to understand, they've been rewriting history my entire life. By the time they finished talking, I half believed that my college fund had actually gone to you instead of me. I leaned back in my chair. So what changed? I started looking through old photos, old documents. She pulled out her phone, scrolled, then turned it toward me. It was a photograph of a bank statement from 8 years ago. The student loan in my name. Another photo showed the parent loan paperwork for her tuition, signed by both our parents. I found these in Mom's purse when she left it at Trevor's. I wasn't snooping, I swear. Her wallet fell out and these just scattered everywhere. She swiped to more photos, credit card statements, collection notices, a letter from their mortgage company about foreclosure proceedings dated 2 years ago. 2 years, I said. They've been planning this for 2 years. Longer. Vanessa pulled out a folder from her bag. I went to their house after I kicked them out. The landlord let me in to get their stuff. I found journals, papers, emails printed out. They've been cataloging things about you. Your salary, your address changes, your social media posts. There's a whole filing cabinet dedicated to tracking your life. My coffee turned to acid in my stomach. Why? Because you were always the retirement plan. She slid the folder across to me. Read page 23. I opened it with shaking hands. It was an email from our mother to our father, dated 6 years ago. The subject line read, investment strategy. The body of the email laid it out in cold, calculated terms. I was the smart one, the responsible one, the one who would succeed. Vanessa was the backup, the one who would stay close and compliant. They deliberately set up our childhood dynamic to create resentment between us, to keep us from comparing notes or forming an alliance. Every inequality, every slight, every time they chose her over me was designed to drive a wedge between sisters while grooming me to be self-sufficient and her to be dependent. They called you an investment, Vanessa whispered. They called me insurance. I read further. There were spreadsheets, projected earnings based on my field of study, estimated timelines for when they could start extracting money from me, contingency plans if I refused. One plan involved faking a medical emergency. Another suggested using Vanessa's well-being as leverage. There's more. She reached across and flipped to another section. Read the one from last month. It was a text chain between our parents. Dad had written, "She's not biting on the eviction story. We need to escalate." Mom's response, "Already started spreading the word at church. By next week, everyone will know what she did to us. Her reputation will force her hand." And then, chillingly, "If shame doesn't work, we'll use legal action." That emergency contact status gives us options. I looked up at Vanessa. What did they tell people? Everything. Her eyes filled with tears. They told the church you embezzled from them. They told Aunt Patricia you physically threw them out on the street. They told the neighbors back home that you stole their identity and ruined their credit out of spite. None of that is true. I know, but they have people who believe them. Aunt Patricia has been blowing up my phone saying I need to talk sense into you. Cousin Raymond threatened to come to Seattle and handle you himself. And the church, she trailed off. What about the church? They're taking up a collection for our poor, destitute parents who were betrayed by their ungrateful daughter. She pulled up a Facebook post on her phone. It was from our mother, posted 3 days ago. The post was a masterpiece of manipulation. Mom had written about raising 2 daughters, sacrificing everything for their education and happiness. She talked about how one daughter had turned her back on the family in their time of need, how they were now homeless because I'd refused to help. The comments were filled with outrage on their behalf. People I'd known my entire childhood were calling me selfish, cruel, heartless. There was even a GoFundMe link. They'd raised $12,000. They're using that money for rent, Vanessa said. For a 2-bedroom apartment in Queen Anne. They signed the lease yesterday. Queen Anne, one of the most expensive neighborhoods in Seattle, 15 minutes from my place. They're not going back home, I said slowly. No, they're staying here. Mom already joined 3 different churches in the area. Dad's been telling people he's looking for work, but he's 63. He's not planning to work. He's planning to bleed me dry. The realization hit like a physical blow. They're going to make my life here unbearable until I either pay them off or leave. Vanessa nodded. That's what the emails suggest. They call it proximity pressure. The idea is that if they're close enough, they can manufacture situations that make you look bad. Public confrontations, showing up at your workplace, creating emergencies that require your immediate attention. I thought about my job, my carefully built reputation, my quiet, structured life that I'd fought so hard to create. This is insane. They're insane. They're desperate. And desperate people don't think clearly. She closed her folder. But here's the thing. I have all of this. All the proof, the emails, the documents, the evidence of their planning. And I'm willing to give it to you. Why? She looked down at her hands. Because I'm tired. I'm tired of being their pawn. I'm tired of living in a world they constructed where I'm too fragile and stupid to function without them. I'm 25 years old, and I've never filed my own taxes because Mom said it was too complicated for me. I've never made a major decision without their input because they convinced me I wasn't capable. Vanessa, let me finish. She took a shaky breath. When I kicked them out this morning, Mom looked at me and said, "You'll never survive without us." And I realized she actually believes that. She spent my entire life making me believe it too. But you know what? I got a job offer yesterday. A real job, with a salary and benefits. At a marketing firm downtown. I start next week. That's great. I almost turned it down, because Mom's voice in my head kept saying I wasn't qualified, that I'd fail, that I should stick to part-time retail where I couldn't mess anything up too badly. Tears streaked down her face. I've let them control my life for 25 years. I'm done. I reached across the table and took her hand. It was the first time we'd touched in years. What do you need from me? Help me understand what normal looks like. Help me figure out how to be an actual adult instead of their trained pet. She squeezed my hand. And maybe we can stop them together. We spent the next 3 hours in that coffee shop going through every document, building a timeline, identifying patterns. Vanessa had done meticulous work, cross-referencing their lies with actual facts, pulling bank statements that proved their spending habits, gathering evidence of their manipulation. "There's one more thing," she said as we packed up. "Trevor, my ex. He's a lawyer. Does he still believe their story?" "No. I showed him everything last night. That's why we broke up. He said he couldn't be with someone whose family was this toxic, that it was too much drama for him." She said it matter-of-factly, but I could hear the hurt underneath. "But before he kicked me out, he gave me some advice. He said what they're doing might actually be illegal." "What do you mean?" "The GoFundMe. They're raising money based on provably false claims. That's fraud. And the identity stuff, using your emergency contact status to apply for credit without your knowledge. That's identity theft." Plus, he mentioned something about libel and defamation because of what they're telling people about you. I felt something shift in my chest. Not quite hope, but close. Did he say what we should do? "Document everything. Keep records of every interaction. And consider getting a lawyer of our own." She handed me a business card. "This is Trevor's colleague. She specializes in family law and estate disputes. Trevor already told her the basics. She said she'd take a consultation." We parted ways outside the coffee shop with an agreement to meet again in 2 days. I watched Vanessa walk away, her canvas tote slung over her shoulder, and felt a strange mix of emotions. Anger at our parents, grief for the childhood we could have had, and something else. something that felt almost like pride in who my sister was trying to become. I went home and spent the entire night reading through the documents Vanessa had compiled. The picture they painted was damning. Our parents hadn't just been neglectful or selfish. They'd been deliberately, systematically manipulative. Every choice they'd made had been calculated to produce a specific outcome. The next morning, I called in sick to work and went to meet with the lawyer. Her name was Diana Shu, and her office was in a sleek high-rise downtown. She was younger than I expected, maybe early 30s, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Your sister's ex-boyfriend gave me an overview," she said, gesturing for me to sit. "But I'd like to hear it from you. Start at the beginning." I told her everything. The childhood favoritism, the college funds, the years of working myself to exhaustion, the sudden appearance at my door, the rejection, and now, the smear campaign and the move to Seattle. Diana took notes, asked pointed questions, and occasionally stopped me to verify details. When I finished, she sat back in her chair. "This is one of the more extreme cases of parental financial abuse I've encountered," she said. "And yes, before you ask, that's a real term. What your parents have been doing falls under a pattern of behavior that's increasingly recognized in family law. Can we stop them? We can do several things. First, the GoFundMe. If you can prove that the statements they made are false, you can report it to the platform. They'll likely take it down and potentially refund the donors. Second, the emergency contact situation. We need to contact every financial institution where they've listed you and have you removed immediately. Third, the defamation. If what they're saying about you is demonstrably false and damaging your reputation, you have grounds for a cease and desist letter at minimum. And at maximum," Diana's expression hardened, "at maximum, we file a lawsuit. Sue them for defamation, fraud, and emotional distress. Seek a restraining order to keep them away from you and your place of employment. Make it very clear that there will be legal consequences if they continue. How much would that cost? More than you'd want to pay. Litigation is expensive and emotionally draining, but here's what I suggest. We start with the cease and desist. We lay out everything we have, make it clear that you have evidence of their fraud and manipulation, and give them one chance to back off. If they don't, then we escalate. What if they call my bluff? Based on what you've told me, they won't. People like your parents rely on their victims being too intimidated or too isolated to fight back. The moment you show them you're neither, the dynamic changes." She leaned forward. "But I need to be honest with you. This is going to get ugly. They're not going to go quietly. And there's a good chance this destroys whatever relationship remains." "There is no relationship. Not anymore." Diana nodded. "Then let's get started." Over the next week, we built our case. Diana drafted a comprehensive cease and desist letter that outlined every false statement my parents had made, included evidence that contradicted their claims, and demanded they retract their GoFundMe, stop spreading lies about me, and cease all contact. We sent copies to them, to their church, and to several family members who had been most vocal in their support of my parents. We also contacted the GoFundMe platform directly with our evidence. Within 48 hours, the campaign was taken down and the money was frozen pending an investigation. I removed myself as an emergency contact from every account I could find, changed my phone number, and installed a security system in my apartment. Diana helped me draft a letter to my employer's HR department explaining the situation in case my parents showed up there. Then we waited. The response came 5 days later. Not from my parents, but from Aunt Patricia. She called Vanessa, who had the presence of mind to put the call on speaker and record it. "What is your sister trying to pull?" Aunt Patricia demanded. "She's threatening to sue her own parents?" "She's protecting herself from fraud," Vanessa said calmly. "Did you read the documents I sent you? I don't need to read some lawyer's spin on things. I know your parents. They would never do what she's accusing them of. They kept journals planning how to exploit her. I found them. I photographed them. It's not spin, it's evidence." There was a long pause. Then, "Your mother said you've been brainwashed, that you're too weak-minded to see you're being manipulated." I watched Vanessa's face as she heard this, saw something harden in her expression. "Tell Mom and Dad they have 24 hours to retract their statements and leave Seattle. Otherwise, we're moving forward with legal action." "You can't," Vanessa hung up. The next 24 hours were tense. I barely slept, jumping at every sound. But when the deadline passed, there was nothing. No retraction, no response at all. "They think we're bluffing," I told Diana. "Then we show them we're not." She filed the lawsuit that afternoon. The legal complaint was 47 pages long. It detailed every instance of fraud, every false statement, every manipulative action. It sought damages for emotional distress, demanded a formal public retraction, and requested a restraining order preventing them from coming within 500 feet of me or my workplace. We served them the papers at their new apartment. Vanessa told me later that Mom had actually laughed when she read it. "She thinks this is all going to blow over," Vanessa said. "She thinks you'll back down once you realize how expensive court will be." "Will you testify?" I asked. "If it goes to trial?" She didn't hesitate. "Yes, but we never got to trial. Because 3 days after being served, my parents' church found out about the lawsuit, and the pastor, who had been raising money on their behalf, wanted to understand what was really happening. Vanessa and I met with Pastor Douglas in his office. We brought the documents, the emails, the journals, the evidence of their planning and lies. We showed him the bank statements proving they'd spent their own money on Vanessa's whims, not on my education. We showed him the credit reports proving I'd never stolen from them. Pastor Douglas read everything in silence. His face grew progressively paler. Finally, he looked up. "They came to us with such conviction," he said quietly. "Your mother cried when she told us what you'd done to them. She seemed so genuine. She's had years of practice," I said. He nodded slowly. "I owe you an apology. I owe your congregation an apology. We acted without verifying the facts, and in doing so, We participated in bearing false witness against you. The following Sunday, Pastor Douglas addressed his congregation. He didn't go into details, but he made it clear that the church had been misled, that the fundraiser had been based on false information, and that members should not repeat or spread the claims my parents had made. He also announced that the church would be donating an equivalent amount to a charity that helps victims of family financial abuse. My parents stopped attending that church. They tried 2 others in the area, but word had spread. Seattle's religious community is surprisingly interconnected, and pastors talk. No one wanted to be the next church taken in by their con. The lawsuit moved forward. Their lawyer, a cut-rate attorney who specialized in nuisance suits, tried to get it dismissed, failed, tried to settle for a token amount. We refused. Finally, 2 months after we filed, their lawyer called Diana with a real offer. They would sign a formal affidavit retracting every false statement. They would leave Seattle and return to our hometown. They would pay $8,000 toward my legal fees. And they would agree to a 5-year restraining order with a clause that if they violated it even once, they would owe me $50,000 in additional damages. It's not perfect, Diana told me, but it's a win. They're admitting wrongdoing. They're leaving, and you're getting legal protection. I looked at Vanessa, who had been sitting in on the call. What do you think? I think we take it, she said. I think we make them put it in writing that they lied, and then we let them go back home where everyone will eventually find out what they did. Small-town gossip will be worse punishment than anything a court could impose. She was right. We accepted the settlement. My parents signed the affidavit in front of a notary. Diana made sure copies were sent to everyone they'd lied to, including all the extended family members who had condemned me. The day they left Seattle, I didn't go to watch, but Vanessa did. She sent me a photo of them loading their belongings into a U-Haul, both of them looking smaller somehow. Diminished. Mom tried to talk to me, Vanessa texted. Said we were ruining the family. I told her she did that all by herself years ago. That was 4 months ago. Since then, my life has slowly returned to normal. Better than normal, actually. Without the constant dread of my parents showing up or the weight of their manipulation, I feel lighter. I got a promotion at work. I started dating someone I met at a coffee shop. I'm sleeping through the night for the first time in months. Vanessa and I have dinner every Tuesday. She's thriving at her marketing job, discovering she's actually quite good at it. She got her own apartment last month, a small studio she decorated herself. Every time I visit, there's something new. A painting she picked out, a bookshelf she assembled, small declarations of independence. I signed up for a financial literacy class, she told me last week, at the community college. I want to understand money, how it works, how to manage it. Mom always said I was too stupid for numbers. You're not stupid. I know. I'm starting to really know that now. She grinned. My instructor said I'm one of the best students in the class. We don't talk about our parents much, but when we do, it's different now. We're not defending them or making excuses. We're just processing, trying to understand how 2 people could be so calculating with their own children. Do you think they ever loved us? Vanessa asked one night over Thai food. I thought about it, really thought about it. I think they loved the idea of us, the investment, the insurance, but actual us, the real people we are, I don't think they ever bothered to know us well enough to love us. She nodded. That's what my therapist said too. You're seeing a therapist? Started a month ago. Turns out being raised by manipulative narcissists does a number on your mental health. Who knew? She said it lightly, but I could hear the pain underneath. I'm proud of you. She looked up, surprised. Really? Really? You could have stayed complicit. You could have kept believing their version of events, but you didn't. You chose the hard path. So did you. You chose it years before I did. We clinked our water glasses in a silent toast to survival. Last week, I got an email from Aunt Patricia. Subject line, I'm sorry. The email was short. She'd talked to our parents, finally asked them direct questions about the documentation Vanessa had provided. They'd deflected, changed the subject, tried to play the victim. But Aunt Patricia had pressed, and eventually, the story fell apart. I should have listened to you from the beginning, she wrote. I should have asked questions instead of just believing the narrative they presented. I'm sorry I participated in spreading lies about you. I'm sorry I didn't protect you the way an aunt should. If you're willing, I'd like to rebuild our relationship. If not, I understand. I stared at that email for a long time. Part of me wanted to delete it, to cut off everyone who had believed the lies about me. But another part, the part that was slowly healing, recognized something important. Aunt Patricia was doing what Vanessa had done, what I had done. She was questioning the narrative she'd been fed. She was choosing to see the truth even when it was uncomfortable. I wrote back, kept it brief, said I appreciated the apology, that I wasn't ready for a relationship yet, but I wouldn't close the door permanently. Asked for time. She responded immediately. Take all the time you need. I'll be here. 2 weeks ago, I got a call from the lawyer my parents had hired. He was calling to inform me that his clients were filing for bankruptcy. The legal fees, the settlement payment, the sudden loss of their GoFundMe income, it had drained what little they had left. They're asking if you would consider helping them with... No, I haven't finished the... I don't need to hear the rest. The answer is no. They signed a restraining order. This phone call is already a violation. I suggest you inform your clients that if they contact me again, directly or through an intermediary, I will pursue the $50,000 penalty clause. He hung up without another word. I told Vanessa about it later that evening. We were in my apartment, assembling a bookshelf she'd bought but couldn't fit in her car. How do you feel about it? She asked, studying the instruction manual with intense concentration. The bankruptcy. I feel... Nothing. Is that horrible? It's honest. She looked up. They made their choices. We're not obligated to save them from the consequences. Mom would say we're heartless. Mom would say anything to manipulate us into compliance. That's kind of her whole thing. Vanessa turned back to the shelf. Hand me that screwdriver. We worked in comfortable silence for a while. Then she said, I saw them last week. I froze. What? They came to my office. Waited in the lobby until I came out for lunch. Mom tried to hug me. I stepped back and asked them to leave. Dad said they just wanted to talk. I said they'd signed an agreement not to contact us. Mom started crying, saying we were killing them, that we'd destroyed their lives. What did you do? I pulled out my phone and started recording. Told them I was documenting a violation of their restraining order. They left pretty quickly after that. She sat back, examining the partially assembled shelf. I sent the video to Diana just in case. I'm sorry you had to deal with that alone. I wasn't alone. My boss saw the whole thing. Afterward, she took me to her office and told me that when she was 24, she had to get a restraining order against her own mother. She said it gets easier. Not easy, but easier. I thought about that. The idea that somewhere out there were others like us. People who had to choose their own well-being over family loyalty. People who had to learn to build boundaries against the people who were supposed to love them unconditionally. We should start a support group, I said half-jokingly. Actually, Vanessa pulled out her phone. I found this online community. It's for people who've gone no contact with toxic family members. They have video calls every month. I've been attending for about 6 weeks now. And it helps. Knowing I'm not alone. Hearing other people's stories and realizing ours isn't even the worst one out there. Some of these people, she trailed off, shaking her head. There are parents who make ours look like amateurs. That's depressing. It is. But it's also validating. Because every time I start to wonder if maybe I'm overreacting, if maybe I should give them another chance, I hear someone else's story and remember why I can't. The bookshelf came together slowly. We made mistakes, had to backtrack, argued about whether panel C went on top or bottom. It was frustrating and tedious and oddly perfect. Because this is what being sisters looked like without our parents' manipulation between us. Just two people, trying to build something together, making mistakes and fixing them. When we finally got it standing, Vanessa stepped back with a satisfied smile. We did it. We did. She turned to me. I know I don't say this enough, but thank you for not giving up on me. I know I was complicit for a long time. I know I should have seen what they were doing sooner. You were raised to not see it. We both were. I just happened to be on the outside of it so I could see the pattern more clearly. Still, you could have written me off as a lost cause. Most people would have. I pulled her into a hug. You're my sister. The real you, not the person they tried to make you. I wasn't giving up on that. We ordered pizza and ate it sitting on my living room floor, the new bookshelf standing empty behind us. Vanessa pulled up photos on her phone, showing me the plants she wanted to buy for her apartment. I've killed every plant I've ever owned, she admitted. But the lady at the nursery said these are basically indestructible. We'll see. Start small. One plant. Learn how to keep it alive. Then expand. She laughed. Is this a metaphor? Everything's a metaphor if you think about it hard enough. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I opened it. It was from our mother. Just 2 words. Please reconsider. I showed it to Vanessa. She took my phone, blocked the number, and handed it back. There. Problem solved. It won't stop them. Probably not. But every time they reach out and we don't respond, we're reinforcing the boundary. Eventually, even they will have to accept it. You sound like your therapist. I've had 3 sessions this week. I'm practically a licensed professional at this point. She grinned, then sobered. Seriously, though, I know it's hard. The guilt, the what-ifs, the part of your brain that says maybe you should try one more time. How do you deal with it? I remember what my life was like before, how small I felt, how incapable, how convinced I was that I needed them to function. And then I look at my life now, the job I'm doing well at, the apartment I'm paying for myself, the decisions I'm making without their input. And I remember that their version of me was a lie designed to keep me dependent. That's very healthy of you. Yeah, well, therapy's expensive. I gotta get something out of it. She stood, stretching. I should head out. Early meeting tomorrow. We're pitching to a new client and I'm doing part of the presentation. That's amazing. It's terrifying, but also amazing. She grabbed her jacket. Same time next week? Same time. After she left, I sat in the quiet of my apartment. The bookshelf stood against the wall, a tangible reminder that Vanessa and I could build something together, that we were stronger than our parents' manipulations, that we were learning to be a real family, defined not by shared DNA or childhood trauma, but by choice and respect and genuine care. My phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. I almost didn't look, but something made me check. This time it was from Aunt Patricia. Your mother called me today. Asked me to convince you to help them. I told her I wouldn't. Thought you should know. I typed back, thank you. Her response was immediate. That's what family should do. Protect each other from harm, even when the harm comes from within. I saved her number in my phone. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls from various unknown numbers. No voicemails. Classic harassment tactic. Make your presence known without saying anything actionable. I forwarded the call log to Diana with a brief message. FYI. Her response. Documented. This is violation number 3. Want to pursue the penalty clause? I thought about it. Thought about dragging my parents through court again. Thought about the time, the emotional energy, the way it would consume my life for months. Then I thought about the settlement we'd agreed to. The clause that said each violation would cost them $50,000. Money they didn't have. Money they'd have to find somehow. Maybe by actually getting jobs. Maybe by selling their remaining possessions. Maybe by finally facing the consequences of their own choices. Yes, I typed. Pursue it. Diana filed the paperwork that afternoon. My parents had 30 days to respond. If they couldn't pay, their wages would be garnished. Their assets, such as they were, could be seized. Their financial destruction would be complete. I should have felt guilty. Part of me expected to. But mostly, I felt a strange sense of peace. This wasn't revenge. This was simply accountability. They had made an agreement. They had violated it. Now they would face the predetermined consequences. 3 days later, I got an email from a journalist. She was writing an article about family financial abuse and had heard about my case through legal circles. Would I be willing to talk to her? I called Vanessa. What do you think? I think our story could help other people in similar situations. I think silence protects abusers." She paused. "But it's your decision, your privacy to give up if you want to." I agreed to an interview, with conditions. We wouldn't use our parents' names or my identifying information. The focus would be on the pattern of behavior, the warning signs, the resources available to people in similar situations. The article came out 2 weeks later. It was fair, balanced, and powerful. The journalist had interviewed several experts in family financial abuse. She'd talked to other victims. Our story was just one of many. The response was overwhelming. I received dozens of emails from people thanking me for speaking up. 3 women reached out to say they were in similar situations and my story had given them the courage to seek help. A law professor asked to use the case in her class as an example of why we need stronger protections against this type of abuse. And then, unexpectedly, I got an email from cousin Raymond, the same Raymond who had threatened to handle me months ago. "I read the article," he wrote. "I didn't know. I swear. I didn't know what they'd been doing to you all those years. Your aunt showed me the documents and I still didn't want to believe it. But reading your story, seeing it laid out by a neutral third party, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I threatened you. I was protecting the wrong people." I wrote back, accepted his apology, didn't offer forgiveness yet, but didn't close the door either. The legal case against my parents for violating the restraining order moved forward. Their lawyer tried to argue that they hadn't personally called me, that maybe it was someone else using various phones. Diana demolished that argument by showing the pattern of calls, the timing, the coordination. The judge was not amused. "Your client signed a very clear agreement," he said at the hearing. "They have violated it repeatedly and flagrantly. I'm granting the plaintiff's request for the full penalty amount plus an additional $5,000 for court costs." My parents tried to appeal. The appeal was denied. They tried to declare bankruptcy to discharge the debt. Diana successfully argued that debts incurred through fraudulent behavior couldn't be discharged. They were stuck with it. I didn't attend the hearings. I didn't need to see their faces. Diana handled everything, sending me updates via email. Professional, efficient, final. 6 months after everything started, Vanessa and I took a trip together. Just a weekend in Portland, wandering through bookstores and coffee shops, eating too much and talking about everything except our parents. On the last evening, we sat by the waterfront watching the sunset. Vanessa had been quiet for a while, just staring out at the water. "Do you think we'll ever forgive them?" she asked finally. "I don't know. Does it matter? Doesn't it? Isn't forgiveness supposed to be freeing or whatever?" I think that's something people say to make victims feel obligated to let their abusers off the hook. I watched a boat drift by. Forgiveness is optional. Healing isn't. We can heal without ever forgiving them. Have you healed? I'm getting there. Some days are harder than others, but I'm not angry all the time anymore. I don't think about them constantly. I'm building a life that has nothing to do with them. That feels like healing to me." She nodded. I started journaling. My therapist suggested it, writing down my thoughts, my memories, trying to separate what actually happened from what they told me happened. It's intense, I bet. I'm remembering things differently now. Like, I always thought they gave me everything because they loved me more. But now I see it was part of the plan. Keep me dependent. Keep me from developing skills or confidence. Make sure I'd never leave them. She turned to me. "They weren't spoiling me. They were crippling me. And now you're learning to walk without their help. It's fucking hard. Most worthwhile things are." We sat in silence as the sky turned pink and orange. 2 sisters, learning to be family on their own terms, building something new from the ruins of what we'd been given. "I got a promotion," Vanessa said suddenly. "I wasn't going to tell you until it was official, but screw it. They're making me junior account manager, 20% raise and actual responsibilities." I grabbed her hand. "That's incredible." I know I've only been there 8 months, but my boss says I have a natural talent for reading clients and understanding what they really want versus what they say they want. "When do you start?" "Next month. I'll have my own team of 3 people reporting to me. Can you believe it?" "Yes, absolutely yes." We ordered champagne with dinner that night, toasting to new beginnings and second chances and the family we were choosing to be. When I got back to Seattle, there was a letter waiting for me. Not from my parents, but from their bankruptcy attorney. They had surrendered everything. The house was gone, their cars, every asset they'd accumulated over 40 years of marriage. All of it sold to pay debts, including what they owed me. I would receive $31,000 total. Not the full amount, but more than I'd expected. The attorney noted that my parents would be living in a subsidized senior apartment and working part-time jobs. Dad had found work as a night security guard. Mom was cleaning houses. I should have felt triumphant, but mostly I just felt sad. 2 people in their 60s, starting over with nothing, because they'd gambled everything on their ability to manipulate and control their daughters. I deposited the check, put half in savings, used the other half to pay off Vanessa's student loans from her 1 semester at art school. She cried when I told her, "You didn't have to do that." I know, but that debt shouldn't exist. It was part of their manipulation. Consider it erased. A year later, I'm sitting in my apartment on a Tuesday evening, waiting for Vanessa to arrive for our weekly dinner. My apartment looks different now, more lived in, less like a fortress and more like a home. There are photos on the walls, pictures of Vanessa and me at various adventures, my team from work at a company party, Aunt Patricia visiting last Christmas. My life looks different too. I'm seeing someone seriously now. His name is Daniel, and he's a high school math teacher with kind eyes and a terrible sense of humor. He knows my history, all of it, and he still shows up, every time, exactly when he says he will. Vanessa's doing well. She got promoted again, this time to senior account manager. She bought a 1-bedroom apartment and adopted a cat named Herb. The plant, miraculously, is still alive. We don't talk about our parents much anymore. Sometimes months go by without mentioning them. I heard through Aunt Patricia that they're still in our hometown, still working their modest jobs, still dealing with the debt they created. They apparently told people we stole their money, but nobody believes them anymore. Too many people have seen the documentation. Their reputation is ruined. I don't feel guilty about that. I tried to for a while, thought I should. But Vanessa's therapist told her something that stuck with both of us. You are not responsible for protecting people from the natural consequences of their own choices. My phone buzzes. A text from Vanessa. Running 10 min late. Traffic is insane. I text back. No worries, I'll order appetizers. While I wait, I think about the girl I used to be. The one who worked 3 jobs to pay for college. The one who survived on ramen and determination. The one who built a life from nothing because she had to. I'm not that girl anymore. I'm someone who learned that survival isn't the same as living. That boundaries aren't cruel. That family is supposed to lift you up, not tear you down. The doorbell rings. I open it to find Vanessa, slightly out of breath, holding a bottle of wine and a container from our favorite Thai place. I know you said you were ordering, but I was passing by and I know you love their drunken noodles, so I pull her into a hug. You're the best. I know, she says, grinning. We settle in on the couch, containers spread out on the coffee table. Vanessa tells me about her new client, a startup that wants to revolutionize the pet food industry. I tell her about the project I'm leading at work, how we're developing software that could change how hospitals manage patient data. Look at us, Vanessa says, raising her wine glass. Being actual functional adults with careers and everything? Terrifying, isn't it? Absolutely. She clinks her glass against mine. But also pretty great. Later, after Vanessa leaves, I sit in the quiet of my apartment. Tomorrow, I have a meeting with Diana to close out the legal case officially. Everything is settled. Everything is done. My parents have no more leverage, no more ways to reach me, no more power over my life. I should feel triumphant, or relieved, or vindicated, and I do feel all those things. But mostly, I feel free. Free to build the life I want. Free to define family on my own terms. Free to succeed or fail based on my own choices, not their manipulations. Free to be the person I was always meant to be, not the investment they tried to make me. My phone lights up with a message from Dan. Thinking about you. Hope you had a good dinner with Vanessa. I smile and type back. The best. See you tomorrow? Wouldn't miss it. I put my phone down and look around my apartment. My home, my sanctuary, every piece of furniture I chose, every decoration I picked out, every book on the shelf, every photo on the wall, every choice, big and small, mine. This is what winning looks like. Not revenge or punishment or getting the last word. Just this. A quiet Tuesday evening in an apartment I can afford, with a sister I'm rebuilding a relationship with, and a future that belongs entirely to me. The girl who worked 3 jobs to pay for college couldn't have imagined this. The young woman who turned her parents away at the door didn't know if she'd survive the fallout, but I did. We did. Vanessa and I both. We survived. We healed. We built something better. And that, ultimately, is the best revenge of all. Not hurting them, just living well without them. Being happy in a way they could never control or take credit for. Proving that everything they said about us, that I was just an investment, that Vanessa was helpless without them, was wrong. We are so much more than they ever let themselves see. And now, finally, we're free to discover exactly what that means. I turn off the lights and head to bed, already looking forward to tomorrow. Because tomorrow is mine, and the day after that, and all the days that follow. My parents don't get to write this story anymore. Vanessa and I do. And we're just getting started.